Yeah.
And
Yeah.
could you introduce the people? I don't know who Dominic
so just to
or
give
Tony.
you, well, I was going to wait for Lee to come in.
Oh, don't wait for Lee. He'll probably never show up. He never does.
Well, guys, I've got a load of questions for him. He better turn up.
It's in New Jersey. There's even traffic on the internet.
Yeah. So John Piver is known to us all, but today we have we have Dominic Paradise from Long Island.
Hey, Dominic.
Hey, John.
I lived in Glen Cove for a very long time. Love Long Island.
Oh, really? What part?
Well, Glen Cove.
Yeah,
Well, don't ask me to Grove Street. I can tell you where we lived. It was
okay. Yeah.
before you were born.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have Tony Colatrella, and Tony, you are.
Hi.
I'm in Pittsburgh presently, but I was born in Newark and raised in Belleville, New Jersey.
Oh, wonderful.
Right. And we also have Chuck Walker.
Chuck,
I'm sitting here in Reno, Nevada right now.
Right.
John, you may remember concerts in Reno.
I certainly do.
This is a flyer for when you were here in 1976 at Harris.
When I was there, because that's not me. That's
Frankie Valli.
That's Frankie.
Is that
With a
Frankie?
mustache.
I'm sorry. All right.
That's the flyer.
Oh, I see it. I see it now. Yeah.
Who's Frankie Valli?
I don't know why I saved this, but I saved it.
Lee Shapiro was here.
Lee Shapiro.
Yes.
Welcome.
Are you okay, Lee? Are you happy to be with us?
You're muted.
Lee, you're on mute at the moment.
Unmute, Lee. Unmute. Go to the top of the page.
He's still muted.
Unmute, my liver, my baby boy.
Is I have to talk to you?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Lee. You know, if it hadn't been for those years that you played alongside him, you wouldn't have to. But I'm afraid.
I have to tell you about one thing about John Piver.
What's that?
That is, he says what he feels. Period.
I know he does, yeah. And he made you a star. That's what he told me.
He did. He's the reason I'm here today.
Right. Okay, gentlemen. Well, welcome to you all. Welcome to this session, which we've called Seasons on Saturday. And it is something that I do hope to repeat, but I hope to repeat it when I've mastered Zoom to the level I want. So we've got the chance today with a select group of fans who are very knowledgeable guys. And I've, from the input that I've had from them and other stuff that I've been working on, researching, I wanted to run through and talk to you guys about really the creation of the music that led from you joining the group in 73 and 74 through to 1977 and the Who Loves You album coming out. So I put together these questions and really putting each of you guys as former Four Seasons in the spotlight. Lee, starting with you. I wanted to ask you about the time when you joined, because the Four Seasons had a very difficult time. Frankie had a very difficult time with the Four Seasons members that he had then, and he virtually sacked the group in March. I know that Jerry came in April, and then you were recruited. And I wanted us to be able to understand how you were recruited and how that happened.
Well, it's something that I doubt could happen today, and that is on Monday nights in Garfield, New Jersey, on River Road, we had big band night, and oddly enough, by complete coincidence, Joey Cass was the drummer. I had no idea he was with the Four Seasons. I had no idea. It was never brought up, but it was a big band jazz thing, and everybody was making $20 a night, and it was costing me $20 a night to have my charts copied. And there was a man in town that I had been doing local sessions for disco records, because people were churning them out by the day. when that happened at first. And his name was Lou Toby. And they asked him to replace Gaudio, well, whoever was there, Billy DeLoach or somebody, but or Al Ruzicka, whoever, to replace that person, because he could arrange as well, so they wouldn't have to keep coming back to New York for Charlie every time they wanted to do a new song. And the trend was to be kind of a Bobby Darin-y kind of thing. I mean, like Frankie was doing songs from Broadway shows instead of doing Candy Girl. And it was, I mean, no matter what happens, the man succeeds. It doesn't matter what he does. He could tomorrow he could do Strauss waltzes. It would work. But in any case, be that as it may, so in walks Duke Natoli basically as a scout for Lou Toby. And by the way, I just spoke to Duke Natoli, who's now 87 years old, completely lucid and wonderful. And then I get a phone call from, I think it was from Duke, who said, the band is rehearsing in Belleville, New Jersey at the Fountain Restaurant in the catering facility. That's because they had no money to pay for a rehearsal facility. That's why they were at this restaurant. And I pulled up in I can see it like I'm there, Kenny. Like I'm pulling up into Belleville. It was only about a half hour from where I was living with my mother. Okay, I was 19. And I went to the Fountain Restaurant in my brown Apollo car, 74, 3 or 71. And in was walking Dimitri Callis, very statuesque and huge and bigger than life. And yet the group was kind of, sagging in 73, but you wouldn't know it to look at D, and you wouldn't know it to look at any of them. And that was a huge lesson right there. And that is, you are what you say you are. Then you have to carry the ball. But start off with being who you say you are. You can't, not if you want to be an entertainer, there's a level of narcissism that's there and must be indulged to some level, not on a negative way, hopefully. So anyway, I go and this is a story I tell a lot, but I go in and they got a keyboard there and I sit down at it and they put music in front of me, and obviously I can read music because I'm an arranger and that's what they're looking for. And Frankie walks in. It's my first view of Frankie in person, because I wasn't I was 9 years old when Ragdoll came out and I liked it, but I wasn't particularly agog with the seasons. I was more into Chicago and jazz bands and Buddy Rich. In walks Frankie, and they put music in front of me and he says, "Hi, I'm Frankie." And hi, it was very nice. He says, "Play this for me." So I went bling, and he went, "Pretty as a midsummer morn, they call her." And I stopped, and he looked at me and he said, "What's the matter?" I said, "You sound just like you do on the radio." He seriously laughed at me for a good 10 minutes. Joe Long, everybody, it was fine. And then I got the call from Joe Long, and he said, "Lee, do you want to be one of the Four Seasons?" And of course, everyone was telling me, "Don't bother. It's the has-been band. It has no chance. It was over in the 60s, blah, 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 blah." And I said to myself, if it was the Delphonics, I'd say okay. If it was the Chimes, I'd say okay. But even then at 19, I said, it's just too big a name to just go away. Four Seasons, Beach Boys, Beatles, Motown. It was all the big thing. And I took a shot. And my form and analysis teacher, Ludmila Ulela, in Manhattan School of Music, I said to her, "Should I do this? They want me." She said, "Lee, if you're telling me," first of all, she said, "Lee," she was 140 years old then. And she said, "Lee, I don't know who the Four Seasons are, but if you're telling me that they want to pay you to play music and arrange the music and travel, I would go do it." It changed my life. This little Pillsbury Joe woman giving me the right advice.
It didn't take you long to settle in and come to terms with both singing as a Four Season and the previous arrangements?
Well, I would tell you that the previous arrangements were by, at the time, I didn't know to revere him such as I do now, a genius, Mr. Charlie Colello, and another genius, Mr. Artie Schreck, both of whom I'm very friendly with now, consider them mentors. But at the time, that was I mean, I could do arranging, I knew how to do it. But when I saw what they were doing, I absorbed it like a sponge. So much so that the story goes that when Charlie Colello was conducting Who Loves You, the string parts, he looked up at Gaudio and said, "Hey, Bobby, did I write this?" Which to me was a very high form of flattery.
Yeah.
Because it was my first string chart for the Four Seasons.
So how were the first performances? How
Unbelievable. First performance, Airy Crown Theater, which at McCormick Place, which is now O'Hare Theater, so it's in Chicago. And Frankie, Frankie said to me in Belleville at the restaurant, "Lee, you're an arranger, and that's what we're looking for. If I ask you for a new chart, how long from when I ask you will it take for you to complete it?" And I said, "Frankie, if you want to do something new, I'll write it in the morning and we'll play it that night." And the mother called me on it on the first gig, which was to 3,000 people in the car on the way to the hotel. He said, "Lee, I'm thinking maybe some kind of brass fanfare. Maybe we should do something this, do something that." I said, "Okay." So I went to the hotel room and I wrote something in a very Chicago theme kind of thing. But the first thing I had said to him was, I said, "Am I allowed to be blue here or not really?" I had very large areas of my body that some people do have and some people don't have. And I didn't realize who I was talking to. Hi, John. And I didn't realize, can I have some of that? Pass me that over here. So meanwhile, I said to Frankie, "I think the way you're doing Dawn is missing." I don't know whether I said opportunity, but I was 19. Who knows how I spoke? But he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Will you go, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Bang, bang." I said, "I think you took off the best part of the song." He says, "Well, what do you think we should do?" I said, "I think we should go pling. And from off stage, you go, pretty as a midsummer morn. They call her Dawn. Ladies and gentlemen, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons." He did it that way until, I don't know whether John played it that way, but no. So we played it that way for a good 2 years. From 73 to 75. Does that sound right, John?
Well, yeah, late 73, I guess I came as a member somehow.
Yeah.
But I get Ken knows better than I do.
Yeah. I'll
Ken,
Well, I
Ken,
mean,
we
the thing
need you,
is
man.
that
Digitize yourself.
John missed out a little bit because he missed this strange demo that you decided to do. And although we know the story about how you did it on the road and pulled it together quickly with Joe, and I mean, whose idea was it?
To do which? This opener?
I wonder why.
Oh, I wonder why. I wrote, this is the God's honest truth, and I certainly don't need a spotlight on me to grandize myself at this stage. I'm telling you what the truth is. On a melodica, which is a little melodiphone with keys on it, that my mother bought me that I still have from 73 as a present for being one of the Four Seasons. And Dimitri, we were doubling up in rooms because Frankie had money problems. So me and Dimitri, coincidentally born on the same day, were roommates. And Dimitri said, "Let's write a song." And I said, "Great." And basically he wrote the "I wonder why, I wonder why, and then when the chords got complicated, you'll recognize that was me. And together we finished this song in the hotel room. It was done. Now we're in Maryland, and his friend Teddy Bodner, who still came to Hitman concerts, unfortunately in a motorized wheel thing, had a studio. And he gave his friend free time, and we all went in there, Jerry, me, Joe, and Dee, and cut a track, which was basically a cliche. It was basically a medley of every cliche that the Four Seasons ever played. It had parts of Big Girls Don't Cry. It had parts of Can't Take My Eyes Off of You. It had everything, everything that was ever Four Seasons. It had triplets, dun, 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 dun. Anything that was ever done by Crew was in this tune. Well, meanwhile, lo and behold, we finish it, and it really sounds good. And there's no way to pay anybody. So Dimitri says, "I'll tell you what." And we all, what did I know? You know, everybody goes down as a writer because there'll be no publishing because Mo West will take that. So we'll all go down as writers. And I say, of course, sure, we're a team now. I'm in the band. And Dimitri is the only guy who could really talk to Frankie in those days. He had his ear, and he said, "Frankie, you got to hear this track, and you got to come in and you got to sing it," which was completely in breach of his contract with Motown.
Yeah.
He was not allowed to do any recording as a lead vocalist without their awareness and approval. He came in the middle of the night, nailed the mother, and to what you heard. And I mean, even the little bells in the chorus is ragdoll, ding, 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 as I recall it all now. And he loved it. And then Suzanne DePass at Mo West, she loved it. And what I really think was happening, Ken and Mark, and this person here below me, what was your name again? I'm sorry.
Chuck and Tony.
Tony.
Yeah,
Chuck
I can't see everybody. Sorry. Anyway, Chuck and Tony and everybody else. I really believe that they were already in the process of releasing the Four Seasons. I think that they were. I think they were parting ways behind closed doors. Maybe not with Frankie's full knowledge, but they say they lost the master. If they lost the master, it was not unintentional. And if they didn't lose the master, it was because they didn't want to give it up because they didn't have to because they broke the contract.
Right.
So,
Okay. Well, yeah. I
fill in what really happened.
I can
Fill in
explain
what really
that they were in recording sessions throughout that year, and by the end of the year, they finally decided that they were going to release something because Kenny Nolan and Bob Crew wrote 8 songs apparently, and you were taken into the studio with a number of other top people and great Motown musicians. But you told me last time we spoke about the germ of My Eyes Adored You when it wasn't My Eyes Adored You, and you were there.
I was in there. Frankie, it's so weird how it sounds so meaty. And at the time, it was so off the cuff. We're in New York, where I think we were at SIR rehearsing. And Frankie says, "Lee, Crew is with Kenny Nolan over at his apartment on Central Park West. And they're dealing with a new tune that I'm going to do. Go see what they're doing." Now, today, I would say to you, holy shit. I'm going to go over there with a guy who invented recording. You know what I mean? Basically. But then it was like, okay. So I go over there and I walk into the main room and there was Crew and Kenny. Kenny sitting at an upright piano in the middle of the floor, complete not decor, non-decor, you know, just stuff. And they're playing Sweet Eyes of Georgia. Da 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 da, Sweet Eyes of Georgia. And then there was that moment. Wait a minute, not Sweet Eyes of Georgia. I'm standing there minding my own business. I barely said hello. My Eyes of Georgia. I didn't think anything of it. Son of a bitch. There it was. And the same thing happened at the record. I think I told you last time, Kenny and Mark, Toby and Chuck. When I was on the session for My Eyes Adored You, and it was just me and Crew and Colello in the performance area with the horn players. And they're playing it, the strings are on it, it's gorgeous. And it's My Eyes Adored You. And Crew yells, "Stop, wait. And of course it was one of those, and I'm not aggrandizing this. It was one of those standing on the console at Media Sound moments that you've heard so much about. I caught maybe the last 2. He used to do it regularly. So meanwhile, he says, someone write this down. Well, Charlie could have done it, but he was in the performance area. Other than that, I was the only one there who could do it. So I tore off a piece of music paper off of something else. And I said, okay, go. He said, run the track. And as My Eyes Adored You played, Bob Crew, who doesn't play an instrument, went like this. Ba-da, 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 baubles, bangles, and beads. And if you listen to the record now and listen to My Eyes Adored You, behind it, you will hear a Glenn Miller with a clarinet lead horn section of saxes playing baubles, bangles, and beads. And I'm the guy that wrote it down, and Crew said, run it into Charlie, run it into Charlie. And I ran it into, these are such little insignificant moments compared to if you're talking to someone like, Ringo or somebody, but they're little jewels in my baseball hat. They're little collectibles that are just stuff that you can't plan, couldn't have planned. The chances of it happening are zero, and they happened.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you. Wonderful story. And then you went on to other sessions, and for some reason, all those sessions were all Crew Nolan songs.
Because they were good.
Yeah. Now, you said to me last time we spoke, you had a lyric in your head that you didn't know whether it was recorded or not. And you remember this lyric?
I do, and I know that it was recorded. I didn't remember whether it was released or not because it's so present. Yeah. And if I may, 20 years ago when Frankie had a place in Jersey, I went over to his place. Now, 20 years ago, he was 67. So to me, that was an old man. Now I'm 68. I sat at his piano and I went, fling, when my love touches me and takes me to her skin. She thunders me with love, and that's my life again.
Yeah,
my very own Madonna. I've grown to live. Holy shit! What a record!
Yes.
What a lyric!
And we discovered the master of that, but not only the master of that, we also found that in the Four Seasons archive there were several tracks that had been sent over to Bob Guardio for approval for release on an album. And
you mean the ones that he published or the ones that he didn't publish?
No, I mean, no, he didn't
well,
publish
that's
them.
the criteria.
But there were some that were. But in actual fact, Motown had tried to persuade them to stay by preparing an album. But that will all come out in the box set and you'll understand that. But there are still two missing songs from that session, which we don't know what happened to them, but Hymn to Her and Lovers are there. And,
Hymn to Her is
but you had Nick Massey there.
Nick Massey was on the Hickory sessions.
Oh, the Hickory sessions. But he didn't take part in the Hymn to Her and Lovers session.
No, he was on Hickory and Charisma. And that's it.
Yeah.
What horrendous. Some of the songs were good, but the techniques that were being tried to be like kind of jammed into the tunes, I think they were bad marriages of arrangement with song, and they were copying Brandy with Hickory, and it was all so not Four Season-y, because Four Seasons stuff is what it is. It doesn't sound like someone else.
Yeah, that's right. But you recorded Hickory and it was released, but did you ever perform it? Because
yes, we performed it, and we also did How Come. Remember the song How Come from the movie?
Yeah.
And we had John will recognize this. How come, baby, how come? And we did it in 70, whatever it was, at the Playboy Club in Lake Geneva. In Great Gorge, New Jersey. Great Gorge, New Jersey, with all the Playboy bunnies and stuff. And we did that song, and the beloved Uncle Duke Natoli, in a loud voice, said across the stage at soundcheck, with Frankie there, what is it with this How Come song? It fucking stinks.
I don't know.
I'm telling you, I thought we were going to die.
It may not have been promoted, but I tell you what, the fans today think How Come is a fantastic song. But you
And
know
it
what?
became
There's no four
98.
seasons on How Come. There's no four seasons on How Come. All the
That's
backing
right.
vocals were done by
That was how it was being
Motown
done.
studio vocalists.
And it took us till they had the hit, so much so that we're even the guys on the Fallen Angel. We're the guys on the Beverly Hills Blues Band. We became the guys. We became his little private wrecking crew. You know, he put us.
So you did record. You did record "Just Believe," the Beverly Hills Band.
Yes.
Yeah, that's you guys.
Guardio on piano, but I did the charts and Pulci played drums. I believe Don was on bass.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm going to promote that.
Listen, Dino, Desi, and Billy.
Well,
anyway, ask John something. I'm bored with myself.
This is a time when John was coming into things, and
yes, what a segue. Go.
Yeah. Now. Yeah.
I have a question. Was I on this? I believe.
Was you on?
Well, I'm asking Lee. Lee, was I on? I believe. I don't think so.
I believe.
Yeah,
just believe. Just believe.
Just believe. I'm sorry. I don't know the
song.
No.
None of us were on Just Believe.
Okay, because you said something about. I know it became like
it was a Beverly Hills band.
Oh, the Beverly Hills Blues Band. Yes, you were, John. Yes, John. I'm sorry. I'm having a moment. Yes, anything Beverly Hills Band.
I remember.
John and I were on.
I remember we would go in. We would get called somehow. I don't know how. It all seemed to happen around us. And we would get called, and we would go off and do a session.
Tony Martin Jr.
Yeah, we met. Those four guys came in the room. Remember, we were introduced to Dean Martin's son and what's his name?
Yeah, Dino,
Desi, and Billy.
And they had tennis outfits on. They were going to tennis, and they really couldn't be bothered with us. They didn't give us.
Then we got called in to sing. Then we got called in to sing on a Kenny Nolan record that he kept calling Peter Bennett to play it over the phone for. It was a dance record, and it was a bridge, which I still remember the melody. He tried Pulci on it, sang it beautifully. He tried Don on it, sang it beautifully. I don't know whether he tried you on it. I don't sing that. I don't sing that register. And it went like, how could I go on living if your love you'd stop giving? I'd be half a man. And this word, with nobody could hit it. Well, the 2 Four Seasons hit it. And they didn't use it. And they had these 5 black dudes there. One sang it with more soul, better than the next guy. It was freaking Levi Stubbs standing there. So, and Kenny wouldn't use it. And finally, the poor guy was so frustrated. He said, "What's the matter with it, Kenny? What's the matter?" He says, "I'm just looking for a certain soul in it." He says, "You're producing the soul out of it."
Well,
standing around those little stories, it's a cute little thing.
The band was evolving at this time, and Don was brought in, and John was brought in, and so things seem to be moving pretty fast in terms of getting top musicians. Don had commented about this was a policy to rather than by chance, but John, you were recruited by chance.
Absolutely, yeah. I was working in Hyannisport. I remember it very, very well because it was kind of abstract, because by that time I had been working quite a while with the Four Seasons, touring around. I was 33 years old already. I mean, Lee was 19, and I was 33. I was an old guy already, playing these gigs, and 13, almost 14 years in clubs. So anyway,
how long were you with the Happenings?
From 70 to the time I went with the Season, so about 3.5 years, something like that. And I mean, that's a story in itself. But interesting is that I was working in Hyannis. We were doing a really kind of a nice place that was filled with teachers on holiday. It was gorgeous. All these beautiful young girls running around with.
I know how you hate them.
Intelligence and short pants. It was gorgeous. Anyway, so we were doing the gig, and we did what we did, and I sang. We sang 4 parts. Naturally, we sang harmonies. That was the Happenings. With I Got Rhythm and all that stuff. And
Bobby was there. Bobby Miranda was there.
Bobby Miranda.
Guy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Bill, what's his name? Joe Biano. The hell was his name? Anyway, the other guy, who was one of the original Happenings. Tommy Giuliano was his name. Is his name? I hope. And we, all right, we did our gig, and it was the usual, you pack it up. And so I was taking my guitar out, and this giant, I was very impressed with the size of him. He appeared to me to be like a giant. Came running, practically running down the stairs, because it was like kind of bleachers, Not it wasn't a club band in that sense. It was more like bleachers. We were doing a concert, and he came running down the stairs, and he put out his hand with a tremendous big smile. He said, "Hi, my name is Jerry Polzi, and I'm with the Four Seasons. I'm here with Frankie Valli and Pat. What was his name? Lee? Pat
Welch.
Welch. And Frankie, and and I said, hello, because by that time I had met, and Lee knows better than I, man, you just meet all kinds of people, some are just full of crap and some are okay, but most of it's nothing.
Everybody loves you. Everybody.
Yeah, it's almost, it's empty. It's full of promises. Oh, next time you're in town, give me a call. We'll do this and that. It's all make believe. Don't believe it. It's all untrue. Anyway, so this wonderful smiling guy, and he was really, really kind and very, very complimentary. Oh man, you play so beautiful and you sing great.
Well, you do.
Oh, thank you, man. I love you too. And so then eventually, Pat Welch said hello, and then this little guy came, this Frankie Valli guy, and I knew that the Seasons from when I was. Ken knows the story because I wrote this, as Ken knows, in a small book, story. And when I was 13 years old, I remember this being 13. I think Ken found out that the date isn't absolutely right, but somewhere around that area. The Seasons did the song "I've Got You Under My Skin," and it was on the radio, and it was magnificent. And I wasn't, not that I was a fan of that. I liked rock bands. I was a rock band fan. I played rock. I played a lot of rock. So I was really, I thought that was gorgeous. Man, 4 parts. I've got you under my skin. It was gorgeous. It really was beautiful. Did you do the arrangement on that?
Artie Schreck.
Artie Schreck did it, yeah.
Artie Schreck.
Artie Schreck is a genius.
It was gorgeous.
Period.
It was really beautiful and beautifully performed. It was just beautiful. And I said to myself in my brain, wow, that I'd love to, be with that band someday, That I really did. So here I am now talking to this guy, Jerry and Frankie, and I was impressed that I was beating a star, but stars are only other people. They have good luck. They've had a break. So I didn't take it all that seriously, except that Jerry was very nice. And he said, listen, I'll give you my number. We'll stay in contact. Well, I'm kind of, like a dog with a bone. If you give me something, then I'll kind of like hang into it, So I started calling Jerry. I'd call him like, every couple of weeks. And I say, hey, Jerry, John Pipe. He was always very nice. John, how you doing, man? Oh, dude, great to hear from you. What's up? And blah, blah, blah. Wait a bit. Oh, he said, we just came back from Vegas. Or we just came back from some fair. Or we just came back from doing some theater. Well, I was drooling, because I had been on the road a little bit. I had done like New York, a little bit upstate New York and stuff with bands. But, oh, man, these guys were like really out there, and cool. He said, you keep in contact. And I did. Never really believing that anything would have come, but why not? Strange shit happens, And then eventually, somewhere along the line, I don't even know if I was living in New York or Rhode Island at this point. I don't know where I was living. I guess I was in New Jersey. Anyway, I got a call from, I think it was Joe Long, I believe. And Lee, you know so much. Your mind is so much better than mine. So if you remember anything that I make a mistake, fill me in.
The transition was such that it was straight ahead. Frankie wants a second guitar, so obviously things were financially getting a little better, and he knew when Frankie thought something was the case, it was the case. Now, frankly, there would have been other ways to handle what was missing of whatever he was hearing arrangement wise, but he wanted a second guitar, and it did make a difference. And that's why John got the job to be the second guitarist, that I had to play the book because every record, Frankie was getting into he was transitioning from being Bobby Darin at Bachelor's 3, and hey, I got love, and transitioning into maybe the hits was the way to go, and we started to be truer to the arrangements as John was coming in, and then disco happened, and of course everything.
Yeah, but
changed.
you Lee, were writing more and more complex arrangements for other standard songs that were still in the repertoire.
That's correct. I was doing whatever he told me to do. He said, Lee, I want to do a medley of Stevie Wonder's All in Love is Fair and
Way we were.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That was a great arrangement. That was a killer arrangement. I loved playing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and this is what was so noticeable because obviously John provided me with the tape of Bachelor's 3, and I was able to salvage it and put it together and save the masters, and those masters are now going into this box set.
It's actually amazing. You did a great job on that because that was really the lowest quality. It was just a cassette.
Yeah,
I got to tell you,
from the
man,
desk.
If I close my eyes, I can smell the place when I listen to the music.
well, it was obviously it was Frankie's Mafia guys on holiday, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Well, you know the story about the murder, right? On my first night, my first time on the band.
No.
No, spill
You
the
don't-
beans.
Okay, here it comes, and this is God, my hand on my grandchildren's head. The way that you entered the stage in Bachelor's 3, which was a very seedy mafia kind of club with Joan Namath was a partner, and it was all decorated in kind of like, sparkly vinyl and the shag rug. Anyway, and in the back was the dressing room, and then you walked through the crowd onto the stage from the front to perform. So the announcer, ladies and gentlemen, and then you'd walk in and people would clap, blah, blah, blah. Hey, everybody. And it was that kind of an environment. So now I've done 3 jobs with the group. I'm brand new, 3 jobs. And now we're going to do this Bachelor's 3. So it's opening night at Bachelor's 3. And there I am. And I called my dad, and it's all been very exciting. And in the middle of the first song, which was I Got Love from Pearlie,
yeah,
certainly don't open with a Four Seasons song. What sense would that make? Anyway, but the guy can't do it wrong. So what are you going to say? But bottom line is we're doing I Got Love, and Pat Welch, who was just mentioned by Johnny, comes running up the aisle. Get off, get off. Get off. He was dead serious. And so we turned off our instruments. We got off. He walked us, almost leading us by the hand, up through the carpeted aisle of the audience, past the wet bar, which was tile floored. And I looked to my left, and drawn on the tile floor, which I can see in my mind now, it was like faux vinyl brick color, was the chalk outline of a man and a big pool of blood by the head. They used the first song of our opening set to kill someone. So I called my father and I said, "You won't believe it, Pop." He said, "I'm sending you the ticket." Sending you the ticket. He says, "You're coming home immediately." I said, "Oh, I'm not coming home." He said, he was like livid. He couldn't believe it. So that's that.
You guys kept going there again and again. So
I think someone might be making some money. I can tell you who
must have been some good money. It must have been some good money
for somebody.
But listen to those recordings, and the guys who are in this conversation with us have all heard it. The band appeared to be the best Four Seasons of the 1970s up to that stage.
Frankie says so. Frankie told me that personally.
Yeah.
He said there was the original guys and there was you guys, and that was the best we ever were.
Yeah.
He knows the rest of it is he knows now, he's not the dope. He knows that his show is a karaoke tribute to Jersey Boys.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. We know that. We know
that's great.
You were our Four Seasons, so we know what you were like. We saw you live.
I understand, and I don't fault him for that. He wants to look, there are performers that want to pass away on stage doing what they love, football players, people like whatever. And I am here to tell you his one interest in his whole life of all things in the world is being Frankie Valli. And, you know, whereas, and I say this modestly, if I stopped playing music tomorrow, I love to do graphic arts. I love to play with my grandchildren. I love to, and you're the same way. Can you, Mark? I'm sure that if X didn't work, you would do Y, and you would be splendorous in that. He has nothing but being Frankie Valli, and my heart goes out to the guy because he has. If he doesn't tour, he's an. Look,
He
say
loves,
it like it is.
he totally has to tour. We know that. Yeah. We know
He
that.
has to tour to breathe.
Yeah.
Or record, but
Yeah.
he can't record anymore. Now, honestly, there are opportunities that I've presented that were turned down because his team, and I'm not blaming, and I don't really care anymore, but his team didn't want anybody to make money off of their franchise other than them. It was their brand, and I understand that on a business level. However, I had an in with QVC to sell anything Frankie Valli. Like I was going to have Tony Valli go on. I had this set up. Tony Valli was going to go on and sell Frankie Valli spaghetti sauce. You tell me. You tell me. Season's fantastic. Meanwhile, they turned it down. And the reason they turned it down is because before Jersey Boys, when Frankie was on a lower part of his career, they weren't nice to him.
Right.
That's the reason I was given.
Okay. Well, when you were 19, well, in a sec.
Dominic.
I'm sorry. Well, go back to John, please.
When you were at this point in time, it was down to Bob Gaudio, who, according to an interview I heard yesterday, went to Mike Kerb and said he wanted to sell the new band and the new sound of the Four Seasons to the current public, not the old band, a new band. And that was Bob Gaudio's concept. Is that correct?
I could go better than that. And this may be stuff you already know. And let me rephrase that. This is stuff you already know. But Frankie and Bob paid for Who Loves You before there was a deal out of their own pocket. They spec'd on themselves. So this is a good lesson to aspiring artists. Even a group with, at that point, 60 million records sold worldwide, dominating the charts in the face of the Beatles, even they were only as good as their last performance, and even they had to put their own money where their mouth is and take a shitty 9-point deal. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
When the typical deal would be 14 points to be established. They got a 9-point deal, and I know because I got 3/4 of a point. Hey, Johnny. Hey, Johnny boy.
You got a half a point.
Dom, did you want to come in at this point?
Hi, Lee. It's Dominic Paradise. How you doing?
Hey, I love the shirt, baby.
Hey, I know a guy. I'll see if I can connect you up with him. One thing that's been on my mind, and I was telling Mark and
Wait
Ken,
a minute, Dominic.
Yeah, me, Dominic.
Hey, man.
Hey,
You're a great guy.
How you doing, Lee?
My grandchildren love you.
Oh, and I love them. They're such good kids. I keep seeing
You're
them
a
all
good
over
kid.
the place.
The world should be like you, Dom. Let the world be like Dominic
I don't
Paradise.
know. You're going to have to get Susan's perspective on that one. I mean, she might. But
This is Ken and Mark. This is a good guy. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much.
So, what do you want to know?
And I befriended Lee on Facebook, and like I told him, you're my Four Seasons, John. You're my Four Seasons. I was telling Mark and Ken before. I was too young for the originals, and when I saw the Jersey Boy movie, and when I saw the play, and the first thing that came to my mind is how come they didn't focus a little bit more on you guys. You guys kept the Four Seasons relevant because, like you said before, then you had the hustle, your disco, oldies doo-wop was a dying thing. I was telling Ken and Mark, Long Island, once a month you could see Johnny Maestro at a little club. You could see the Duprees at a little club. But you guys kept Frankie Valli relevant. And it kind of like pissed me off a little bit that, you know, they didn't mention you guys.
Well, let me tell you, there's more things than that to piss you off. But don't get pissed off, because when someone owns something, they can spread it around and share it, or they can keep it all for themselves. Both have reasons behind them. And I can tell you that Frankie and Bobby built their business on ownership. And I don't know whether you know this, or I know that Kenny does, that after they were done with Phillips Records, they were the first group. Like, there was no such thing as an oldies back then. Didn't have time for be oldies yet.
Yeah, right.
Big band music was oldies. So they went in and bought their own masters back. Why? They didn't know they were going to license them. They were theirs. They wanted them. So they bought them. And they built an empire on owning everything. If they put me and John in it and used someone to play us and play our likeness, they'd have to pay us. Yeah. And the story was an entertaining story, even though not factual. Where was Charlie Colello in that story?
Yeah.
You know, so there were opportunities. I even said to Frankie I said, Frankie, one time when I saw him in Cerritos about 7 years ago when the Hitmen were there, I was there with them, and he was the night before us, and I saw him and I said, are you fucking kidding? You're the real guy, and you come in the day before me? What do you got? Are you mad at me? Who's going to come and see me? But we did pretty good anyway. But the whole thing is surreal. I don't know. Well, the bottom line is that Charlie Colello, Artie Schreck, Bob Crew, who was depicted beautifully, by the way. I knew Bob, and that, as cartoony as it was, that's how he was.
Well, Bob didn't like it.
He didn't like it at all.
But the truth of the matter is,
it at all.
Yeah, no, but it is what it is. But the truth of the matter is, as I said to Frankie in front of everybody, was where I started this story. You couldn't have said, "Hey Lee, get me a coffee." I'd have known it was me. You couldn't throw that in. Hey Shapiro, where's the anything?
I agree.
So anyway,
what would it have cost them?
Bob did sell you guys to Warner Curb. And we know that it was Don's vocal, which led the way with that and got the contract for you guys. And that recording by Don, that demo, we found the master tape in the Four Seasons tape archive. And I have to say, Bob Gaudio made the whole thing available to us. Well, almost the whole thing, but more on that in another session. And we were signed
recently.
I've spent the last 4 years going through everything.
But I mean, when Bob gave you the license for it.
No, he gave us the tapes to review and find anything we wanted to put it in.
That's because he's 80. And why not be nice?
Totally crazy. I've actually found the original demo of Peggy Farina and Bob Gaudio doing Begging. When that breaks, it's going to be big.
By the way, that's a hit now for the 7th.
Well, I know it's
another hit.
Tony, you've got some questions to ask, I'm sure.
I would address it to Lee. When you joined them, you were, I believe, 19 years old, and Frankie and Joe Long and Crew and Colello were like 20 years senior. Did the age difference ever create any kind of conflict or problem, or did you just fit right in?
There were. Wait a minute.
No.
Wait a minute, Lee. There's going to be no conflict. Believe me, Lee was an amazing powerhouse of a personality. He was funny. He was so friggin' intelligent. He was game. When he was asked, I remember I have a vivid remember. We were flying it. By this time, I was one of the Four Seasons, so I was in the plane now, and we were flying to Vegas to do a show. And Frankie and Lee was sitting next to me, and Frankie said he wanted string parts by that night. So Lee said, "Okay," and he pulled out the score sheet and he knocked out this string parts. And when we went to Vegas, Lee knew it because, of course, he was on duty. So he went and he got them copied. And we went to rehearsal, and it was flawless. It was perfect. Nobody was going to question Lee because I know that there was some conflict once in a while, Lee, but it had nothing to do with. I mean, you held your own beautifully. You really were. You astounded me, and I was 33.
I got to tell you, I'm holding my own now from what you're telling me, but because it's very complimentary. But the truth of the matter is,
Never hold
and
your
I
own.
look back on it now with some sensitivity, that the way I became I was there to be the arranger, and that was all fine. And Joe Long had been the conductor forever because he was the most musical guy other than Gaudio. And Gaudio couldn't take his hands off the keys because he was playing 19 parts because they didn't have synths or anything then. So the way the passing of the baton went was 40-year-old Joe was told in a loud voice at soundcheck with an entire assembled band that 19-year-old Lee Shapiro is going to conduct now. And I thought nothing of it. Like, yeah, Joe, I'm going to conduct. Now I'm a 67-year-old man, and it breaks my heart. You know what I mean? It breaks my heart.
Yeah, and if I were Joe, I would have been very, very upset too. I must admit it. I would be upset.
But I would have loved it. I would have loved it if Joe were upset. But it became a personal vendetta where he made my life miserable.
Yes,
he brought me to tears more than once when I was like 19. And Dimitri actually stepped in and said, "If you don't stop, I'm going to kick the shit out of you," because he was abusive.
He was even when I was a boy, he was abusive.
So, but meanwhile, yeah, but I'll tell you something else though. Spin forward a bunch of years, maybe 10 to 12 to 15 to 20 years ago, it got back to me through Bruno Gargano, the longtime Seasons fan. Yeah. Joe says, "Yeah, Lee doesn't like me." Well, I had reason not to like him, and he was abusive, but that's not what I live my life about. So I found his phone number and I called him. I said, "Joe Long," and he said, "Yeah, this is Joe Labragio." And I said, "Fuck you." And he said, "Shapiro?"
That's a great story. Anyway,
I said to him, "Listen, Joe, don't tell people I don't like you. We were young. We were babies. Good people do bad things. Bad people do good things. I wanted to call you and just say I don't dislike you." And he was like touched by it. And when he died, I spoke to him the day before he died. Oddly enough, I was calling because I heard he was sick. And for some reason, my phone hit FaceTime instead of call. And he answered in the hospital with a white beard. And he went, "Shapiro." And I went, "Long, what's going on?" And he says, "Oh, I got the vaccine, but I still got COVID." And he says, "But they're telling me I'll be going home soon." I said, "Well, if you do, leave the beard, man. And I'm just thinking of you, and do well." And he died. So isn't that something? Isn't that the cycle of life? Isn't it?
Yeah, connections. Okay. Well, Chuck, I'm going to come to you.
Can you hear me?
Some questions now. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Get involved.
He can't participate unless he talks to John. I'm getting a complex.
Okay. I got a couple questions. I've got one question for both of you with regard to the recording sessions. When you were recording something like "Who Loves You" or "December '63" or the rest of the albums, you started out with an arrangement and you did multiple takes. If we look back at history, the takes are different for the album or the single versions. Was that part of the logic when you did the takes, or that was done afterwards?
I have to say that question is directed really directly to Lee. I have nothing to say when it came to this technical end.
Well,
I was just a guitar player.
I know exactly what John is talking about. We made a Long "Who Loves You" record, and they edited it down to the 4-minute version that became the single. Okay.
Right.
They're the same, if I'm remembering correctly, there wasn't different takes. It was the same take, and it was edited out. Once it was edited out, in order to make room on the radio for more advertising, they would speed it up a little bit every record.
Yeah.
If you listen to them, if
They're
you,
different speeds.
John, maybe John can bear this out. If you take a pitch pipe, the song is supposed to be in A, and you'll hear that it's a little sharp. If you listen to it on the radio, that was done of the day.
Well,
they made more sponsors.
When we researched the tapes, we found there's 3 versions of Who Loves You. There's the A-side single, there's the B-side disco version, and there's the album version.
I would doubt. I would really doubt it. I would doubt it entirely. I'm sure Lee's.
All 3 are different. Well,
They sound totally different.
I mean, I didn't play on Who Loves You, so I can't really say anything about the recording.
Okay,
well, you sang on them, didn't you, John? Didn't you sing on it?
I don't know. I think so, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think so.
In the video,
you were on, John, you were on the album.
You
weren't on.
Absolutely, yeah.
Joe, you were on the album, but you weren't on Who Loves You because Joe was on Who Loves You. Exactly. But you were on Oh What a Night because Joe was
on everything else. I was on everything else.
Yeah, you were on everything else.
Yes, it was a big hit.
Sure.
I feel
John
bad
waited for the big hit.
I kind of feel bad because I interrupted on Tony's question. Did you ever get your answer, Tony?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay. Fine.
Well,
but I'm not done with Ken yet, because are you telling me that there are 3 different performances or just 3 different edits?
I don't know. You'll have to listen to them to tell me.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you off the top of my head that Gaudio would take one great take. Okay.
Absolutely.
And then he would edit it for all the other things, take the vocals off for television, all of that stuff, and go as far as we would cut something twice, and he would take the first half of the first take and the second half of the second take because it felt better. But once that was assembled, that was the master, and everything was edited out of that. That's the answer to the question. And if you don't like that,
he's always been like that. He was still like that in the 1990s when he was recording.
On some of the early,
absolutely.
On some of the early CDs, which were not cleaned up, you can actually hear the splice marks on some of the tapes.
Yeah. If you're astute, you'll listen for it. And sometimes it even affects the time. But Frankie, back in the day, Frankie, he would say he misses the day when the following was true. If it felt good, it was good. And that's how they made hit records.
Yeah.
Now, so much more is possible that people explore it to the point of ad nauseum because you got a compressor. There are things you can do, doesn't mean you should do. But then there's people who are unbelievably talented today. And maybe that's always been the way. There's just more garbage today because it's more available to make. But back then, you'll notice, I'll feed you a little piece of trivia that Ken, I'm sure, knows. The reason that the tambourine is always loud on the early 60s records from Frankie, and the hand claps and the foot stomps and all that stuff, is because they only had 2 tracks, 3 tracks, and 4 tracks, and they were bouncing back and forth. Yeah. So all of those were losing generations of fidelity. And the last thing to go on was the foot stomps and tambourine. So it sounded the clearest, even though volume-wise, it may, in their ears and mixing at the time, they may have thought they had it just right. But because of the timbre and the pureness of it, and I honestly, I have the honor of learning all of this stuff from the guys who invented it, from the guys who, it's one thing to have 4 Seasons sound. It's one thing to sound like the Beatles. It's one thing to sound like the Stones. But they're them. It didn't exist before them. Jimi Hendrix, Dr. John, Bob Dylan. It didn't exist. It was not, and then it was. That's magic. That's talent. It's the difference between a singer and an artist. A singer is someone who does a nice job carrying a tune, and an artist is someone who you know who it is in the 3rd second that you hear them.
Yeah, and that's what Bob Crew did for them. Yeah,
that's Frank, but that's Frankie. Frankie is as pretty as a mid. If it's not Frankie, you'll know it's not his version instantly.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we've got to come to a close soon. So, Chuck,
Please address
have you
John
got
some more.
one last question.
Can I just ask a couple real quick questions?
Mhm.
First one is on Who Loves You in December '63. Those songs were remixed by Ben Liebrand and reissued at a later point.
Nice.
Excuse me. Any comments on the remixes versus the originals?
John, did you like the did you like the remixes, the disco versions that were done at Warner's Curb? Mike Kerr did.
I don't have no idea who did what version of anything, but I
No,
didn't
but
like
you know the
anything.
dance. There
I
was a
didn't like
dance.
any. I know, of course not. I hated it. I don't want it to be messed with. What we did was great. You know.
What do you really think, John? I'm asking you to be candid.
Well, I'd like to, before this thing ends, I mean, I really feel like I'd like to make a few comments that I think are valid. One of the things is that Lee, of course, did the arrangement. I know I'm just sounds like I'm blowing smoke up your butt, but this isn't the point. I had been, by the time I was with you guys, I was 33, coming to 34 years old. I had been 13, 14 years in clubs. We were doing everything by ear. I had worked with a lot of guys who could do a little reading. I had learned a little bit myself. But suddenly I was in the midst of some really fantastic musicians here. I mean, Don Don also did as a side, he did copyright work. I mean, people would give him a song, a
He
tape
did
of
the
a
lead
song,
sheet. He had
and
calligraphy. He did calligraphy.
unbelievable, solfeggio, and he would write so beautifully. He even wrote
Yeah.
some of my songs for me, and they look gorgeous. They look much better than they sound. My songs were terrible, but he made them look beautiful. In any case, so here I was now, Lee. I'd love to. I don't know how much time you have left. I'd love to tell you a story about how I ended up. 4 minutes? Forget it. Okay, then maybe some other
We've got
time.
another session. We can have other sessions, John, and we can go over the follow on from Who Loves You, the world tour, and the creation of Helicon. I'd love to do that as a separate session with you guys, and happy if everybody wants that. So
Give him a sec now.
So just to conclude, did you have one final question, Chuck?
Yeah, it's a question that came up from comments Lee was making on the arrangements that he was doing for the onstage performances. There was a period of time, I think in the late 80s and early 90s, when the show opened with a huge back screen and a video with a lot of photos of Frankie and the group through history. And there was a medley of Four Seasons songs. Did you write the arrangement for that medley? Because I think it's incredible.
I think Robbie Robinson does that.
Robbie Robinson did that? Okay.
Well,
It's pretty sure.
Was it? My question to you is: was it a pre-recorded soundtrack, or did they play live to the film?
Both. Depends upon the
Interesting. My money would be on Robbie, only because I left in '80, and I had hired Robbie. I could be wrong on the date, but Ken will correct me. 77, I think maybe. And then when I wanted to leave, I told Frankie, you should talk to Robbie, and he already had. And me and Robbie have been buddies, close buddies, since 77, I guess. I met I spoke to him 3 days ago with his new Peppermint Twist record that he just produced. And we're just, I really have to say that I met people like John and Robbie and Don, and just good guys, good horn players, and it's just people that stayed with you throughout your whole life. You met assholes too, but they have to go to bed and be them, and I get to be with you guys. So the good always outweighed the bad for me. Maybe not at the time, but in retrospect, everybody was the victim. I'm not making the money, and I don't have a solo, and me. And what I learned with the Hitmen is it has nothing to do with me. What we were doing actually had an effect on somebody's life. People came up to the Hitmen's table to sign with tears in their eyes. I saw you at the steel pier. The horse jumped into the tub, and then you guys played. It was 1970. I had no idea that it mattered. And I'm very proud to say that now I know that it mattered, and I take it very seriously. And I know that John feels exactly the same way, right, John?
I had phenomenal times. I would love to be able to talk about them, but Ken has said I have no time.
Well, no.
Screw you, Ken.
You do. You can talk if you want to.
They'll edit it. Go ahead. They'll edit.
Well, no, you said you have 4 minutes.
Well, because we want to edit the.
Okay, then let's leave it at
Edit
that.
me.
Uh,
No,
edit-
no, 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 no. Stop.
John,
Please
just
let
come on,
John-
give us
Just
some.
tell us the real. Tell us.
Tell John a story, and if you have to edit some of my wavering around that I do, because I wander, edit my
Tell the story.
wandering out and put John in, and do that, or I'm out. There,
Okay.
All right.
real power
First
play.
comment I make is Dominic is adding, Dominic has just added some eye candy to his background.
Let me see.
That was actually, John, I drew this of you when I was 18 years old.
Fantastic.
I drew, yeah, I did you,
Your
Frankie.
nice outfits.
That's in the brown suit. That was
Yeah,
wearing
yeah,
the brown
that's
suit,
brown.
yeah.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Mike
I
Douglas.
love that. That was my favorite suit.
That was this, I got that from this booklet.
Oh my God.
This is-
I have
A
that
relic.
book.
Ladies
I
and
have-
gentlemen,
I have 2 of those books, actually.
Oh, my goodness.
I'll give you $12 to burn them.
No.
No,
Yeah.
John, come on.
All right.
I've been
Tell us,
carrying
sir.
these around in my life.
There are some relevant points that I would like to make about recording because it was really fun for me and astounding for me because suddenly I was in a situation where you went in, Lee would provide a music sheet, a legible, clearly written, sensible guitar part, which worked with all the other parts. So in fact, as I recall, unless Lee wants to correct this, as I recall, just about everything I ever recorded with that season's band, pretty much we laid the track down.
That's
When
right.
Jerry played and Don played and I played, we laid a basic track. Lee often didn't play because
Audio wanted to play.
Audio would play. And Audio played great. I mean, it was his music, so he played it great. And I enjoyed it. And I remember particularly doing Down the Hall.
Yeah, that was a session.
That was extraordinary. We were literally standing around the piano. And Gaudio said, well, we're going to do this thing. And we started playing it. And that became the track. So that was for me astounding. What we laid down happened. Okay, there was lots of stuff over it. I mean, like Sal de Dance, when I must have had 8 million tracks on it. But Lee, remember the wonderful combat you and I had when we did the Emily Sal de Dance at the end of it, that long thing that they added on, where you and I trade fours. Oh, it's
That's
fabulous.
right.
I had such a good time. And I had brought in this, I didn't even know what I had. I had a bunch of foot pedals. I had bought them that day. There was like 6 or 8 foot pedals, all these, they did all kinds of stuff, wah-wahs to distortions to, I don't know, all this crap. I didn't even know what it was. They just turned it on. And so when it came to do this part, I don't know how it came. Did Gaudio say play for us? Or did we just do it? I don't remember.
He did.
I don't remember. I just remember.
He
I
told me,
was in the
John. He
studio
told me. He told you to just play on.
Okay, and Lee was in the studio playing the keyboards, and I was out there, so we could see each other, and so I would just push a button, and sometimes the thing wouldn't work, and all of that craziness, it was edited down a bit somehow. I don't know how much was edited in or out, but we just played this long, and I had such a good time. I had such a wonderful time, and I remember one incident that kind of made me unhappy. I don't remember what the song was, but I had this solo, and I thought I played, good. I played really well. I was very on top of my game at that point. I was really enjoying playing. It was good fun, especially in the studio. It was really good fun with all these great guys. And I played this solo, and Jerry jumped up and said, "Man, you sound like George Benson." And Gaudio said, "Do it again." The last thing he wanted was George Benson.
Yeah, he was trying to go another direction.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. This has been a fantastic session, and I'm sure sharing it with the fans when we can will be great. And what I'd like to do is talk again and talk specifically about how you guys work towards Helicon and the eventual parting of the waves, but that's for
I
another.
have to say one last thing. It's very short. It's 4 words. I have to say it.
Yeah.
Shout out Karen Suberth. Okay. go
Karen
ahead.
Suberth, my pen pal from 1976. Yes.
77 Hitmen shows. 77 Hitmen shows, ladies and gentlemen. I love her, and I don't even know her, but I love her
She gets
for
a
11
medal.
years.
So she's a wonderful girl.
It really is. And John too, her husband.
Yes, John as well. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much. I'll
Thank you.
wind the session up now. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you to each and every one of you.
Joe,
Let us
Great.
whatever you need, Kenny. Whatever you need us to do next, let us know.
Will do. Will do.
Okay,
All
man.
stay well.
Thanks.
Everyone
Cheers.
stay well.
Bye-bye.
Take
Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Tom,
everybody.
keep on. Take care.
Good to see you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Bye.
Be good.